Everything seems work well. Perfect. Have you seen a cool loading screen animation when you visiting some web applications where it shows such a welcoming text? Well, you are in your lucky day. We are going to build an impressive loading screen animation that will be customizable so you can use it in your future projects. Let's jump right in and start by creating a component inside our UI folder here, and we can name it loading screen animation .jsx, and running our RFC snippet here, it will generate our component. With this container div, let's specify some styling in our class name attribute. We can give it here a fixed and the inset of 0, the z here to be 50, and the background to be black. Let's give it the text color here will be gray of 100. And also let's display as a flex column is here, and the items we want them to be center, and the justify content also to be center. And also we want a gap between items inside our div here to be with a 5 here, that meaning like a 20 pixel. So this div will contain 3 main tags here, or 3 main things here, which is our text and the blinker here inside our span, we will define it, and also we have the progress bar. So you can imagine how our loading screen it will be, and immediately let's start in by defining our progress bar here inside another div here, and let's give it a styling of a width here of 300 pixel, and also with the height we want it to be a bit tiny, so let's give it a 3 pixel here, and the background to be gray of 800, a bit darker, and also to be rounded. The position here, or it will display in here as a relative, and the overflow to be hidden. So inside our div, let's create another div here that holds this progress bar styling inside, that holds the progress bar here styling of the width of 40% and with the height of full. So he will cover all the height of this first container div of child div here, so to be full, and we want a background of blue 500, and the shadow also 0.015 pixel, and the color will be 4179E3. And also we want to give this div like a class name here. We can name it animate loading bar, so we can style it later on in our index.css. Here copy all of this progress bar here and paste it down, so we will have 2 progress bars here that it will containing our text that we're welcoming the visitors. So here between them we will specify another div that holds our static text. We can like make it for now a static, and then we can change it to be dynamic, and simply we can say glad to have you here, simply. And let's give it a styling here of the margin button to be 4, text size to be 2XL, font to be mono, and the font semi bold. Let's also here to make in like kind of this blinks here. So this blinks we want it inside a span tag here, I will tell you in a second why I put it here in a span either and rather than, for example, p tag here. That's because if we put it inside like a p paragraph text here or another div, that it will generate for us in a new line this one. But in our case, we want to have a different animation and different styling from the first div here. So we put it here, and then it will appear in the same line with this text. So let's give it a class name here of animate blink, so we can later on style it in our index.css. And let's also give it like a margin for in the left side of 1, and text to be to excel, and the font to be bold. Pretty good. And you can just get rid of this prettier weird stuff here. And now let's call our loading screen animation component in our app.jsx, which is the parent component of our application. And we can do it inside a fragment tag here rather than this div. Just get rid of these styles, and we can put it on the top of our returning from the application here, which is above the navbar and the mobile, which is it will be the first thing it will appear in our screen when the visitor open our website. Simply here call our loading screen animation with a self-closing tag, and it will import it immediately here from the file loading screen animation path. If it's not, please do it manually. That causes the component won't render. Now let's see how it looks like in our browser. And here we go. It doesn't do anything. Absolutely. The reason for that, because we haven't put any animations or logic for making this appear and then disappear again from the screen. Let's back to our VS Code. And in order to make the animation for our loading bar, which should be the first thing to be shown when we open the website. Now we want to come to our index.css, and I wanted to define here under this tag and body styling tags here, we want to define a layer of utilities here. In this layer utilities here, I'm going to specify the keyframe here of loading, and this loading, it will hold 0%. We want the transform to be translate x here of -100%. And also we want it at the end 100% transform translate x here to be 150%. Good. And another thing, we have to install it, which is this class name that we specified for our progress bar, which is animate loading bar. Let's copy it from here and back to our index, put a dot with the following class name here, and let's give it an animation here of loading here, and with the 0.8 s here per second, the animation will be ease, and we want it to be infinite. Good. And the next thing we have to do also, let's style our span here, this animate blink. So we wanted to like blinking as you see in like a bigger websites to impress the users. Let's also specify here the layer of utilities, and also with the keyframe here of blinking, we can name it blink. And this blink, we want it like 0% and the 100%. We want the opacity of our blink here to be 1. And at the 50%, we want the opacity to be disappear. So the opacity, it will be none, or you can just put a 0. Also style the class name here, animate blink. and we can do it right over here under this keyframes inside the layers utilities. We can put the dot animate blink. Let's give it the style of animation blink. We want the 3.8 second. That makes it better, and the animation will be step and we want it to be infinite also. Let's see our website, and here we go. This is the animation that we want. The last thing here left here, which is the text to be like showing letter by letter until the end. Let's move on to our loading screen animation component here, and let's make this animation actually happens. So in order that to happen, we are gonna use some use effect and use state. The first thing, let's define our use state hook. Let's give it a state name here, or a variable name of text, and the setter function or the updater function to be set text. And here let's call our use state hook that it will be imported automatically from the React. If it's not, please do it manually. And our initial value here will be empty string. So our text by default, it is empty. This state, it will keep tracking of our text, the length of the text that it's currently is being displayed in our screen here. Next thing, we are going also to keep track of the full text. Our full text here, we want to define inside a string with a variable named, for example, full text. So this full text that we are going to display, you can choose whatever you would like a text here that it will be displayed in your welcoming screen loading, and it will be also the end state, which is the text. Let's here make our string simply like glad to have you here. Next thing, let's call our use effect hook to controlling our side effects calls. And this use effect, it will accept two arguments here. The first one will be this callback function, and the second one will be the dependency array. We will specify it later on. Inside our use effect here, we want to run a certain interval. This center interval, it will be the logic that we want. So we want to keep an index. First of all, let's declare a variable here called index, and this index will be like for which a letter of the word of our string here it's currently being displayed. So it will start just displaying the first letter here, in our case the G, and it will wait like a certain amount of time and display the second letter here, which is the L, and it will wait a bit and displaying the third letter here will be the A, and so on and so on, as we actually type in it by ourselves. So for that, we have to keep track of which letter we are in with this index, and we can give it like 0 index here. Then we want to create another variable here. We can name it interval, and this let's assign to our variable interval here a set interval function here. This function will accept a callback function inside it. This function here, we want to update our state, so then our text, it will not stick to this empty string, but it will hold also another letters here from our string. And to do that, we want to declare our set text here updater function, and it will accept our full text, which were in our case this glad to have you here. And we want to change the JavaScript here method, which is the substring, and it will accept two arguments, the 0 and the index as a second argument. And this substring here method, it will like cutting the part that we are in our text with the substring here. If we, for example, have the index of 4, then this full text, it will be just the glad, which is held all the 4 letters from 0 until 4. and the setter function, it will reset in our state text here to be glad. I hope you understood that. Now we can change the static text here that being displayed to our loading welcoming screen. You can specify this React.js method with this colibris's format. We can specify our text to be displayed here rather than the static text. So our text here will be dynamic and animated as well. At this point of time, we want to increase in the index here by 1, just plus plus here. This plus plus, as you know, if you understood the JavaScript syntax well, this means kind of like reassigning the index to be index plus 1. So in shorthand, we do just plus plus. Pretty good. And we do that because if we don't do that, we will just get stuck in the same letter, which is the first one here, the G. Okay, this one, it will just the full text here will be 0 until the index of 0, so it will also hold the G, or just the G letter here at the beginning. Then I wanted to end this interval here. We don't want it to run for the infinite way, so we want to end the interval here with the condition. So this condition here, we will check if our index greater than or equal to the full text dot length. If it is equal, we want to clear the interval here. With this function also clear interval, and we will pass inside it our interval variable here that holds our interval function interval. Now let's pass the length of the interval here as a second argument of the set interval. Here we'll hold the two arguments. The first one, which is the callback function, is being executed here, and we want to execute this every 100 millisecond. Our screen here, it is in every 100 millisecond, it will shows a letter, and so on and so on, until the text it will be finished here, which is in the last index here dot length. It will stop and clear in the interval, which is the whole operation here. And at the end of our use effect, we want to return a cleanup function. And this one, it's important because we will clean everything with this callback function in our use effect hook here, or use effect function. And let's pass the clear interval here, also the variable of interval. Pretty good. And that's because we wanna avoid any memory leaks that causes our component to render slowly, or that causes also the application to render slowly, and that's not good for our user experience. Save it and back to our web page. We will see here this glitchy thing. That's because we didn't have the logic fully done yet. We also we don't even have what we want to do when this is complete. When the string, or when the sentence here or string here to be finished, we need another action to do when it's completed. So let's go to our app.jsx here. And to do that, I need a way for us to display this loading screen only when it's loading. And then after it's done loading, the whole text I want to clear out. So now to do that, I will create or define another state here above on the top of our component. And that state, we can give it the name of like is loading, and the setter function will be set is loading. And let's call our use state here state. And with the initial value here of our Boolean state will be false. That meaning it's not loading. And it will causes the component to not re-render. So now this state here will keep track whether or not we are still showing the loading screen in our web page at in the beginning or not. Next, we are going to show the loading screen, this component, if is loading is not equal. And we wanted to do that in this conditionally AND operation here. Between the curly braces here, we want it's not equal is loading. That meaning is loading here by default if it's false. And we want the string here, or we want the condition here if it is not equal to false, that meaning it is true. Then we want the AND operator here to render our component. Let's make it inside our curly braces and save. Is loading. I misspelling that. Here we go. So this loading screen animation, now when this is done, we want to set as loading equal to true. So it won't display this anymore. So we are going to pass a callback function inside our component here, loading screen animation component as a props here, and we can name our props like onComplete and specify a callback function inside it to update our state here is loading. Let's say set is loading here, and we want it to be true. Good. I thought there is also a misspelling of writing this one and this one also. Just type for them the O before the A. And let's adjust that one also, the O before the A, and pretty good. So now this updated state here, it will update our state to be true rather than false by default, and that causes this state to be like a true. That means it's not true, which is false, and the component it will not render, because this logical AND operator it will return only when the condition it is true, and it will open the home page directly when it is finished. Now let's move on to our loading screen here and accepting the prop here within the curly braces here on complete, and we want to actually call it whenever we want the end of our loading operation to be. So the place I want to end it is right over here, because this is where we clear the interval and we are done with the showing the text. So under this clear interval here, let's specify set timeout here, and this within it let's specify a callback function and pass the onComplete here prop, which is our callback function. And also we do want to have a short pause and hide the loading screen. So I'm going to have like a 1 second here. It will be like 1000 milliseconds with a comma, and this one also here. The only thing left is to tell useEffect to run only on 2 situations. At the first render, when the component mounts, or every time the onComplete here function changes in any way. So as a second argument of our useEffect, let's specify comma and the dependency array here and passing the onComplete function here. Save it. Now if we see our web page over here, we should see that if I refresh the page, it will write the text once and then it will hide it. Let's refresh again. So we have here the loading bar and the text within it And we have this beautiful typewriter animation. And everything seems to work well. Perfect.